Okay. Okay. I think we can probably do this too. I wonder if it's going to be mad about using texture. Probably. Hey, it's not awesome. So a couple things I did off. Added a geo extensions. I removed them from math extensions. So what I wanted to do today was a couple things, but let's leave this here, and for now, let's just I'm trying to think how we can do this. Let's turn this rotation off. wherever it is. Here. Or let's just make it rotate on its Y maybe. Yeah, it's fine. Well, a reason I like the cube is because the cube was, you know what, let's keep the cube there. Let's just replace this with the cube, but let's leave our quad method there because we do want, I think because this doesn't have UVs, it's not going to do anything, but let's swap it with, swap our frag shader with just color. All right, so you can see I kind of already have some mouse. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can. In the console up here, I have some mouse handlers, but this is really only handling up and down with the mouse. So press and unpress it and tells you which button. Really, we want like a movement control. Like we want something movement, and I'm not sure. I guess eventually we're gonna do mouse. Like we're gonna do locking. But for right now, here's mouse move callback, and we'll add. And I gotta see what this is. What is a window on mouse move callback? What is on mouse move callback? What is this? It's just in X and Y. Okay. It's fine. Looks like that's how you lock right there. Okay. So it just looks like this is X and Y. What is it mad about? Oh, what does it return? A bull. I don't know why it returns values. So this should actually show us movement. God, it does to some pretty high resolution or some pretty high speed. And then what happens? Let's see what happens if we lock the mouse. I have no idea what this is going to do. Nothing. do like, yeah, that's weird. Okay, what does this do? This is probably something that's called internally, I'm guessing. Yeah. What? So it does look like there's no it's not actually locking it though. You can hide it, but you're not locking it. Maybe that's what that other stuff did. I don't know. Lock L mouse? See, that just doesn't seem. Yeah, it's still not confining you to the window. Eh. Well, we'll look at. I need to figure out how to do that in this case because I don't really understand. Hold on one second. Let's see if I can. So I wonder if I can use that. So SDL2. What was it? Set relative. Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is gonna actually set. Oh, is SDL set relative mouse mode? So interesting. The only problem is it's not really making it relative. It's just I think I would have to set. I think I would have to set position. Like we'd have to measure a delta. Let me see though. It would have to be sorry. Whew. Window dot set. what was it that I was thinking? Warp pointer. We'll just say it's got to go to view width or viewport dot width divided by 2 and viewport dot width dot height. Weird. Why is that not working? Oh, it's got my mouse frozen. Had to Alt F4 it. So it is actually updating, but it's still not. That's funny. But it still wasn't. This is just measuring deltas, which is crazy. But it's got a limit. Let's try this though. Let's try on this. This is going around our little OpenGL platform library, but we can maybe add some things to it to make it be able to handle this a little bit better. So let's go into where we handle events, and let's do this SDL2.SDL.relative mouse state, and let's add a int mx my, and then out mx out my. And then let's see what this says. Console.writeLine. I will do a x mx my my. And this is going to give us a relative position. Okay. That's actually what I wanted. Not the. So I am curious as to what in here. Oh, maybe we want to listen for passive. Let's listen for passive events. I think that's what I want. Although that get state will be right. What up, man? So let's do that. Let's see here. So can I do on passive? Wait. Actually, that wasn't doing anything. What's up, man? I thought that was doing something. What was that doing? On move passive. Oh. My goal is to get looking with a camera mouse working, and what the thing is, I can do that, but what I'm trying to do is get relative mouse positions, not this is fine though. We can it stinks that I can't do it here. But we can use SDL directly and do it. Not necessarily. I mean, that is the effect. That's okay, so let me show what I mean real fast. So let me turn all of this off. Basically, if I just have my cursor, like if you look at the console window over here, you're gonna see that it gives me an X and Y according to, but when my mouse leaves the window, right, I'm no longer getting events. The other thing is you can do this. This is to kind of like keep the mouse contained within the window, is this set relative mouse mode. This will you lose sight of my cursor, but it keeps everything constrained. So as you move the mouse, you can't move outside of the window. No, not necessarily. Yes, I do want to capture, but I want relative mouse movement. So like if I'm stuck in the upper left-hand corner and I move, I want to know how much I moved, regardless of where I am, regardless of whether I'm on a border or not. Like I want to know I'm right there. I moved this much in this direction. And I think that well, in theory, you can do this with relative mouse mode and relative mouse position. So, for example, let's do this. Let's just create a little helper class, and we'll just call it relative mouse. This might not be their best name, but whatever. We'll give it. We'll make it static, because why not? And we'll define a public delegate. We should, whatever. Public delegate on relative mouse move. So a delegate in CSharp is basically just a function prototype. It just basically says, I want to define void on relative mouse position as a function that accepts X and Y. That's it. It's just a definition of a function without actually containing any sort of implementation. I'm glad you asked that right as I explained it. That's good. It means I picked the right time to explain something. Helper method for tracking relative mouse position. Yeah, kind of. Right, but it's standalone. And it's not abstract because you don't have to implement it. However, what it does is let you do stuff like this. So now I could say, so number one, let's actually be able to turn this on or off. Enabled. And we'll do for the getter, we'll do, I think you could do, let's see, SDL2. Let's add a using real fast for L2. Okay, so SDL, we want to return SD. So SDL is a library that is used inside of the OpenGL platform library that I'm using, but we're just kind of going around it because it's not providing the functionality we want for this. And then it's SEL, I think, get relative mouse mode equals SDL bool. But you see how weird this is. It's all because it's like wrapped. It's a native library that's wrapped in CSharp bindings. So you have stuff like SDL bool and SDL true and weird stuff like that. And it might be the same. I'm not sure. But for our setter, we'll have, we'll do SDL.SDL set relative mouse mode. And we have to do this weird thing where we do this again, where we go value SDL true, else SDL not SDL not SDL false. Anyway, it's weird, but that's how we have to do it. Wait, is it not? Why the hell not? Yeah, hold on. Let's see if we can figure that out. Well, here's the problem is that what I tried to do was set up, because this scene capture, this automatic scene switcher, the problem is I don't want to completely change scenes. All I want to do is apply a filter to an existing scene, but it doesn't let you do that. It's completely limited in that way. In that it only lets you change scenes. And so I bet you anything that if I'm in this normal mode right here, I bet you this will show tooltips. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I don't need something that applies a. Here's the deal: is if I created two scenes, one which was this exact same scene, and the second one was this same scene with this area, with the code area cropped, it takes like 5 seconds to transfer between scenes, because this is a video cap. This is a screen capture. And so what I had to do was I had to make another scene, but instead of using a video capture or screen capture, I had to use a window capture. And the window capture had a cropped out area like this. No, I know that, but it's not a transition time based on the transition time. It's a transition time based on the limitations of OBS. It can't transition from one scene that has a screen capture to another scene that has a screen capture in less than 5 seconds. It's just a physical, can't do it. It can switch from a screen capture to a window capture fine. But it can't switch from a screen capture to a screen capture without a latency between it. Even if it's the same screen. Like, even if it's the exact same screen capture, it will still flick off and then take 2 or 3 seconds to capture everything, buffer it, and then flip back on. And that's the problem with it. Like, I don't need something that changes scenes. I need something that applies filters. And it doesn't do that. It's not my fault. It's STLs. I mean, it's OBS. STLs. Anyway, this is what we'll do here. So, yes, a getter and a setter for a property. You basically just define a property like this. You add a get and a set in it. The get just returns, and the setter actually has an implicit value, which is what you pass. There's this value variable. I mean, I looked the same day I was trying to figure it out, and didn't, because I like the zoomed in view. But that's weird that it doesn't capture the. It's weird that it doesn't capture the autocomplete. The other thing is, like, if I could get the autocomplete to stay up so that I could create a excuse me. I don't know. It's a little frustrating. So anyway, we defined our delegate, which will normally you want to put delegates up here at the top. We have our enabled property, and now we're gonna I guess what we want is a list. So we'll add a private static list of on relative mouse move. So this is what it allows you to do. You can basically type. This is a type of this type of function. So any function that has an int x, int y, and a void return type will be classified under this on relative mouse move type. And list of mouse move listeners, and we'll add a static void. I don't like going around that window API like this, but they're not giving me much of a choice. So let's see, on relative. This will be our type that we're passing in. And we'll call it the listener, and we'll just add locking around this for good measure. In case we ever need to call this from a separate thread. Which I don't think we will, but lock for thread add remove listeners. I probably could have actually reused. Anyway, you're gonna find that I'm a little bit peculiar about stuff like this, but I like Java introduced this whole thing where every object can be a mutex, basically. Every object can be a synchronization object. Well, sometimes it's really clear and it's nice if you're locking on different access things, but really and truly, since your classes a lot of times share state, you want to use one lock. There's situations where it doesn't make sense to use one lock for everything inside that class, but for our particular case right here, I'm just going to keep it separate. I could lock on the listeners, like I could do this. And actually, you know what? let's do that. Let's just do that. I like using a separate lock object. It's a habit of mine, but we'll do it probably the more acceptable way, I think. Instead of my little nuanced way. Anyway, so we'll lock this. We'll add listener, and then we probably also want to remove. No, I didn't just wake up, but I've been struggling today. Haven't drank my coffee. Why do I sound tired? Do I look tired? Yeah, not but basic. It'll be basic math. You'll see. And actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about this, we can make this thread safe later, but right now I'm not going to because I think it's just going to add too much overhead to what I'm trying to move through today. Because I would also have to do stuff like we can go into multi-threaded handling later, but right now we don't need it for this. You know what? I would have to say on an interview, I absolutely would go through my threading experience, and especially with OO languages. But anyone who says that they understand threading and isn't like Doug Lee can basically just pound sand because it's not something that's easy to quote unquote just understand. It's one of those things that you can understand it, you can design well around it and with it. But it's one of those things that takes, again, it's consistent practice, and once you get it, you're still susceptible to writing. I mean, it's just like you may be really good at writing code, but you're still going to write bugs. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen. But same thing with threading. It's just kind of a little subcompartment of the entire thing. It's like you may think you understand like locks and synchronization and how to basically effectively multi-thread in a way that you get positive performance gains, but still you're gonna find that you don't know a lot of things, and that you're gonna run into situations that hit you with a Heisenberg. Yeah, dude. I use that phrase all the time, man. The bug that when you go to actually debug it, it disappears. My favorite bug. We got a Heisenberg. You know what my favorite little idiom / naming is there's this style that I use that I originally I didn't know why I started using it, and then once I found out the name for it, I started using it full time because it's amazing. So there's an idiom or a design pattern, or really just a syntax trick, where if let's say you have this method, let's just write it out here. So actually, let's just do it here. Let's say what we want to do is we want to check to see if listener is null or not, even if listener can't be null. Let's just say it could be. Well, to check for null, you would do this. If null equals listener, then we would just early return ignore it. So, but a lot of people, I think when they say it out loud, say if listener equals null, right? Then return. Right? That's how a lot of people would say it or think about it. So I started doing this, and here's the reason. This is not just some stupid style like, oh, I'm just doing this to be different. there's actually validity to the style or reason behind it. Is that one classic conditional mistake is this: if listener equals null, right? So this is legal syntax. It's maybe not. Maybe it's not legal syntax. Oh, it's giving me this because of the. All right, let's do this. Let's just do this just for fun. Add thing, object O, and then we'll do this if O equals null. So C# is actually picking up on it. And it's not letting me do this, but in C++ you can do this. Yeah, exactly. I for some reason I thought this would be valid. Well, and we could do this too. We could say int O, and then there could be the if O equals 5. See, this is ruining my point. It's not necessary in C+ or in C#, I guess. I guess it doesn't allow you to do those stupid mistakes. But yeah, in most cases assignment will work. Except you will get a compiler error if you did this. In a lot of languages in C++, it because you would effectively be trying to assign a value to a constant. Right? So you would get an error here. And so the idea is that if you write things in, this is the best part about it, the name of the syntax or the name of the trick is Yoda syntax. And I was like, that's the name is brilliant. But the reason behind it is actually pretty legit. Although I will say that more modernized languages are better at picking up and warning you about those mistakes, right? But I used to write C++ in Sublime Text without any sort of real-time warning reporting and stuff like that. So like, yeah, you could still catch it. It might be completely out of the ordinary to write a mistake like that anymore nowadays, but what can I say? I started doing it in C++. I wrote C++ for 5 years, and for the last 5 years, and it's just a style that stuck with me. Anyway, so that was that short story that went a little too long, but anyway, that's essentially what where that whole pattern came from. The other thing we want to do here is I think we want to track. We want to track relative x, private static int, relative y. We'll keep them private. Yeah, exactly, dude. I agree. It puts the check conditional in the front. I mean, it looks. The longer I did it, it was hard. It was actually pretty hard to switch over, and sometimes I still, if I'm talking through a condition in my head, I will always start with the right hand, right? I always start with the listener if listener is null, because that's just the way we read things, I guess. But so every now and then I'll look and I've written it down, but I always will go and just reverse it just to keep consistent style, because I think consistency with style is just as important as the reasons why you're also using that style. So we have this relative x and relative y. And what we effectively want is I think we'll use the same approach as the window method had that handle events. So this is what we'll do. This updates the relative mouse position and dispatches events. So effectively what this is going to actually do is this will I think what we need to do is SDL get relative mouse state, and we're going to pass our relative x out. So when you pass an out variable like this, it's I don't know what the equivalent is in PHP. So I don't know what it is, but basically setting something to out just means we're allowing what we're passing this to set the value for us. So a very common pattern is try find, and it'll be like the return type will be like Boolean. It'll be try find, and it'll be like key and then out value, right? So for like a dictionary, and what the Boolean would return whether or not it found the item, and if it did, if that's true, then you can expect value to actually have something. No. Sorry, I'm just talking about the out syntax. Basically, this it's like pass by reference in C, or but it defines that we are able to set this value. It's not exactly like pass by reference. Ref, there's also a keyword ref that you can pass, and that's for more like structs, which are more like C types, where they're stack based. They're created on the stack versus heap. And so they're volatile, basically. They disappear with the scope. They don't have to be garbage collected, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, the point is that like reference and pass and out are just methods of prototyping. Hey, I'm the method that implements this is going to set these values for you. So when we call this and we pass out relative y, out relative x, these are not passing, ints, I think, are value types, so they're going to be copied most of the time. But in this case, they're not. It's actually passing by reference. No, that's not true. So it can easily be a null or not, especially it just says, all it does is say, look, I'm passing this with the expectation that you could or will set something. That's why the pattern is mostly right. This lets you set the variable, right? So essentially what it's saying is you're not getting a copy of this location. You're not getting like, we're not copying this value into your method stack. We're going to pass the actual memory location of this guy to the method, and the method can actually change the value in that same memory location. What's up, Faith? How's it going, man? Faith. I should say Faith, because I think that's what it is. So forgive me if I've been butchering your name or anyone else's name, handle, whatever. Don't blame me. Blame Southeast United States education. So here we go. So this is what we're going to do. And Bo, this is going to answer your question that I think you've been waiting for, is what do we do here? In relative position, this is going to return how much I've moved since the last update, effectively. Yes, right. So you're passing by reference, which is the ampersand, which really is an ampersand. you're basically passing a reference to that value versus a copy of the value. Yep. It's basically pointers and that fun stuff, which I'll be honest, I love. It's one of those things I miss. Okay, so what we're gonna do? So this is gonna return. So if I'm just leaving my mouse standing still, we don't want to be dispatching events for this. We want to be dispatching events when we actually move, and when we move, all we want is a delta. We just want a diff. We just want to know how much we moved, and that's it. So the easy trick here is, so if relative x, well, yeah. So if we're, and 0 equals, so if we have no change, we'll just return. Done. Otherwise, we're going to actually, for each on relative mouse move. Actually, I think it will say this. For each listener in listener, and then see how this works. Now we're looping through our list of listeners, which was these delegates, this delegate type, and we can just call it just like a function, and we'll pass it relative x and relative y. So effectively, all we're doing is really piping out values from SDL when we have a change. And I don't normally recommend using static classes like this for this reason. And but I'm not sure that, and a lot of people would say, the alternative is to have, a singleton. Dun dun dun. Yeah. But what I'm doing is my best to keep our APIs at least somewhat consistent with our OpenGL platform. And since and actually, you know what? We should also probably, just as kind of somewhat of an optimization here, private static bool, we should keep it enabled state. We should keep this internal enabled state. We should keep this, because what we don't want to do is have to execute this interop function every time we want to see if it's enabled or not. So we'll just do this. We'll just do if value is equal to enabled, then we'll just return, because it's a no change, but after that we want to set it. So then we'll use enabled there. So anyway, this is just going to make this, although this is tricky. This is tricky. I think we're hoping. I don't think that we're going to need that. I think that our state can always be based on our, I hope. Dude, amazing. Number one, amazing question. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to give you a complete blanket answer to that, because I think that it depends a lot on what kind of job you're looking for. And to be honest, all companies are different, and I've been very fortunate to not have to interview a lot. Um, I jumped in a job right out of school, and then I've had like like two, probably three, maybe official interviews, and so, but all three times there's a focus on data structures and algorithms. And a lot of times they don't, some companies may make you or ask you to like write code to demonstrate your knowledge about certain data structures. And so there is kind of always that chance that that would happen. But, you know, from my experience in any interview that I give, and by the way, just for the record, I'm the easiest interview always, because I'm such a sucker for people that I tend to not look. So if you ever find yourself in an interview with me, then yeah, you could probably pass. But I just look for concepts. I mean, I want to know that in this situation, if I say like, hey, you know, so here's the situation: we're writing a game, and basically you're looking at this from the server side standpoint, and you have all these people running around in your simulation. How do you let people know? Which people do you let know, hey, this person's here, instead of like you having to send messages to every single person in the world saying this person's here, this person's here. You only want to send them messages that say this person who's close to you, who you can see, is near, sort of thing. How do you optimize that, and what data structures would you use, or what algorithms would you use to do that? So like that's an example from like the gaming point. But I think they're important. And I think any company who's serious about software development has gotta poke and prod candidates about, you know, how much do you know about data structures? What do you know about complexity theory? And don't let that scare you. Complexity theory is just a very top-down way of kind of analyzing how complicated an algorithm is. What's up, Nika Fly? How's it going, man? Yeah. Big O, yes, good. I mean, you're already halfway there. So Big O, I mean, there's some other ones that don't really matter. I mean, the only reason that I'm even aware of those is because I took classes in college that went through them, but it was almost a complete waste of time. But like complexity theory is actually pretty deep, but in general sense, people aren't robots. You know what I mean? Like, it's important to be able to look at a data structure and say, this looks expensive, or like I'm looking at this and you know, it's order in, you know, order in is our big O in, or whatever you want to call it, is, you know, it just depends on the situation. Is it bad? No, I don't know. What's it being used for? Oh yeah. I mean, I'm such a pushover, man. I'm telling you right now, I like the last guy I interviewed, had a job at Microsoft. Actually, not the last guy. The second to last guy I interviewed had a job at Microsoft, and he was working like on the Roslyn team, basically writing like C# code analyzers for stuff. And it was just, I was reading his resume like, holy shit, you're so much smarter than me. I have no business even asking you questions. Anyway, so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just ask them about experience and see if they're full of shit. I would say that's less important. I would say that's less important. Unless you're going for like a C#, like a C++ job where idioms are important, because C# is idioms and design patterns they're kind of closely related, but idioms matter because it's more of like this. C#, C++, it matters more. Like using like resource acquisition is initialization, and that sort of stuff is really important because you're kind of like just the way the truth the light in C++, and versus like design patterns are more like choices. That's not even true, man. I don't know any PHP. If you sat down in here and did a PHP thing, I'd be like. And also, you got to remember, I've been programming. Even though I'm only 33, I've been programming for like 20 years, since I was like a kid. And granted, like 7 years of like being a kid and learning to program, you can only imagine how convoluted and insane that is. But when I went to school for it and actually studied it, you get to apply like a term or an approach to all of the things that you were like, whoa, this thing has a name. I don't know, man. A lot of stuff like it's a server side language. I can't imagine anything that is server side nowadays has an importance. Okay, so we made this static. We're not using a singleton. Who cares? Like what we're following here is this design, this handle events. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to enable our stuff here wherever init input is. Here it is. So we'll do this, and we'll say relative mouse enabled equals true. I hope this is going to be what I do what I think it does. Relative mouse handle events. We'll just put this down here. So we're following kind of this design, and this is our third-party library that just uses a static window approach. So SDL is doing that for us. We're not actually having to calculate that. We're just determining whether or not the delta is 0. If there's no change, then we just ignore it. And actually, I did forget something, I think. This is what we do. The first thing that we want to do is if not enabled, we want to return. We don't want to do anything if we're not enabled. And so this thing will be called no matter what, right? And so we just need to early return if that happens. I'm going to leave this here because I don't think this is necessary right now. Hold on. Sorry, my wife's getting lunch and I need to get something to eat because I am starving. I didn't eat breakfast this morning. That's probably why I'm dragging ass right here. And here's what we want to do. We want to relative mouse. We'll do add listener, and we want to use our relative mouse delegate here. Okay, so this is our mouse move. Let's actually remove this for now because we don't want our. We just want to see when we move and how much it moves. And let's just. I hope this works. It would be just so nice if this just did exactly what I expected to do. And technically it should. I just, I always miss something. So relative mouse add listener, we enable it, we're handling it, and of course it blows up. Oh, easy fix though. I just forgot to instantiate our listener. Dude, look at it go. All right, hold on. Let's move this up so we can see this. All right. And then it stopped working. That's amazing. It was working so well, and then... Oh, there we go. Apparently, I nagged the... I accidentally hung up the console when I did that. But you see, when we move, we're getting relative, and I can move it all the way to the edge of the screen. I can just keep going left, and it's still giving me relative movement. Okay, so that's really, and it's cool. So basically, it keeps, what it emulates is keeping our cursor in the center. I mean, a lot of first-person games use this, right? I mean, it's common. Dark Souls does not use this. It is absolutely a disgrace, but it doesn't, and it should, but it doesn't. So here's what we're gonna do. How do we use this movement in our I'm actually starting to think that we want to always I'm actually starting to think that we should always update, but it just seems like it's too much. It seems like it's too many listener calls. What in the fuck are you blowing me up for? Anyway, what we're going to do is give me a second. I'm looking at this. This is so there are some caveats to this, but I want to hit the problem cases and then go through how we should address them. Okay. So let's in our main class here, let's store this. So the question becomes, how do we take these two-dimensional hold on. How do we take these two-dimensional relative movements and how do we turn them into something that we look at in three-dimensional space? Sorry, I'm looking at what I did here in this prototype, and I'm trying to figure out where the hell. I don't know if it's going to actually work exactly the same, so I'm just trying to figure it out. Basically, we want to keep like a running aggregate of the change, and so essentially what we want. Just imagine like this. So I get this this movement, this relative movement. Now we want to aggregate that. We want to keep track of how much we've moved, right? Well, if you think about it, if we move in the negative direction, 20,000 units, well, it's hard for us to map that to screen coordinates when we've way surpassed our screen. And so the idea is that you need to keep it confined within the screen. And then what happens if you go beyond the screen limits, right? Like, so what happens? You can't wrap back to the beginning, right? But you want to keep moving around in 3D space. So how do you do this sort of thing? In some way, shape, or form, that's kind of what you do. But we'll see. We'll get there. So basically, I just want to keep in this class. I'm just going to keep. I'm going to keep a vector 2. Yeah, let's just keep a vector 2 called mouse. What do we call it? Let's call it, just call it mouse rotation. And let's just make it, let's just new vector 2, 0, 0. So this is basically going to store our rotations. Well, a degree of our rotation. What's up, man? There might actually be a way easier way to do this, but for right now, this is what we're going to do. So let's just go ahead and let's add our relative position. So we're just going to add that X right there. I'm going to turn this down just for the noise value factors. And then we're going to add also mouse rotation dot y plus equals y. And I'm hoping we're going to see the problems very early. I'm going to make another one too. Another one here. So the first one is going to store our aggregate values. And the second one, where did all that go? All right, I don't need the mouse move callback anymore, so let's get rid of that. So, and then so for here, we want let's take our look rotation is gonna be equal to we need to somehow map it. So let's just see what this does. Let's do we'll do mouse rotation dot x. This is you're gonna look at this and be like, why do you have so many variables? But you will in a second. You'll see in a second. So let's take mouse rotation dot x times let's do this public static read only float pi over 2. Okay. This is my little math util that I'm adding these things. So I have float versions of all this stuff. Well, if it's going to let me, why isn't it? Like, what the hell is it not happy about here? Why is it named Matthew Till? Has it always been named that? Stupid. Sorry. That was a terrible mistake. Pi over 2. Battery low. Could everybody just, like, in my life, just be quiet for a second? I'm getting absolutely bombarded with fucking text messages, and I hate. And And I hate that stuff. I hate text messages. So we want our look rotation x to equal this pi over 2, and then look rotation dot y is going to be mouse position dot y times, I think we can do pi here. No, 2 pi. So let's make another constant for 2 pi. And I want to be able to give you a clear mathematic reasoning behind those. They're not arbitrary. So let's see, 2.0 times pi constant. Okay, get out of here. And then we'll do Rock's math. 2 pi. Okay, so let's and then right here, let's see what we're gonna do here. I think what we can do is in our update here, we're gonna set our camera. Where did our camera go? Main camera. Main camera dot we're gonna do rotate x, and I think we want to use the negative look rotation dot x. This is not gonna be right, just so you know, but it's gonna be close. So we're gonna use that. We're gonna use that to rotate along our x and y axis. We use the positive look x, our negative look x, and the positive look y. And it would be a lot easier if I could just see something, but I don't. Let me see what's going on here. Actually, this is what I want to see at this point. I want to see. Let's just go ahead and write out. We'll just do camera dot forward, and then this will give us a good idea of our forward vector. So I think actually what ends up happening is once I surpass although it's really interesting, I'm not actually looking anywhere. My forward is changing, but I'm not. I'm not actually looking. That's interesting. Why is that? So if I took this away, would it? Yeah, something about Rock's object is busted again, I guess. Yeah, I know that feeling. All the different like forks of shit. Yeah, I know, man. So let's try to come up with this then. So let's number one, let's constrain everything to our screen. So let's try this. Let's do this. Let's go to our mouse handler. Wherever it is, here. And let's constrain this. Let's do like a int, and let's do mrot y. Well, let's just do rot y equals or we'll do irot I because it's an int version of this. And we'll do mouse rotation dot y plus the relative y. So actually, dude, this is probably, these just need, this needs to be separate. Let's do private int mouse rotation x and private int y. Okay, so let's do this. We'll aggregate here. So mouse rotation x plus equals this. This will be mouse rotation y plus y. And then we basically want to constrain, do mouse position, mouse rotation y is equal to, we want to see if this is actually beyond our screen dimensions. So this just checks to see if the next update is beyond the screen dimensions. It's going to be viewport height dot height. I think we need to compare it as an int, or maybe it already is an int. Is this an int? Yeah, it is. Good. And if it is, then we want to return, I think, viewport dot height -1. And otherwise, we're going to return that irot y, which is it's just what we assume to be the summation here. So once we constrain it like this, then we can do this. And we'll do mouse rotation x. And this is where we actually we pull the coordinates back to where they should be on the screen, which is going to be mouse rotation x is going to be, we have to use a mod. Let's see, mouse rotation x mod, and then the screen dimensions. So viewport width like this. And this is gonna keep our pointer on screen basically, or in a valid range of values. And the last thing we want to do is, since this keeps it in bounds, we also want to keep it in the middle of our screen, because we're basically going to try to focus on the center, and then anything offset from the center is what we're going to use to rotate our camera to look. So here's what we'll get. Here's how we'll constrain there. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to constrain it to the center of our screen. Then we're going to get a percentage of the screen that we moved, and using that is how we're gonna determine our rotation. So rot x, we're gonna say, is equal to mouse rotation x, and then actually what we need to do is make this let's see, we'll do float mx is gonna be, we're gonna make this, we're just gonna cast it as a float so that we can do float operations, and then we'll do float mouse rotation y. I'm running out of time, and I want to finish this. And if we don't finish it, then we'll fix it next time. But and then really we probably want to store our half height as well, and we'll do half width is going to be float viewport dot width divided by 2.0f, and then float h height is going to be float viewport dot height divided by 2.0f. We're going to work through this too. I will explain this in greater detail. So for our x, we do we're gonna do mx, which is our float rotation x, minus half. Oops, sorry. We for our rotation x, we actually use the mouse y. Oh, I gotta think about why that is too. Minus half height, but the height and the y are still relative, and then we divide by half height again, and then float rot y is equal to mx minus half width divided by half width. And then at this point, this is what we actually should be rotating. This is what we should be multiplying by half pi over 2. And so let's see. Yeah. So let's see how this works out here. Hey, I saw something. It's very sensitive. But look, I'm moving my mouse. Oh, it's so sensitive. And it's like inverted. I actually think it's inverted because of the negative. So it's really sensitive, but we can dumb this down. But I think it just is this. I think that's why it was all weird and inverted. Oh, now of course I can't. It's not working at all now. Anyway, I'm going to have to go. Oh, wait. I lied. Okay, so the y is inverted. Everything's inverted. So what if I do negatives for both?
Come on, kill me.
Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. I kind of have to look around for a bit. It's also kind of unintuitive because okay, so our y is still inverted, but our x is right. Yee, it's so sensitive. I can't explain how sensitive it is. It's crazy. If I move just a tad, it's like it's looking a lot. But I mean, this is our general control here, and we have our forward. I mean, it's moving relative, and I can zoom in and out and around and stuff. It does not feel very good. So we're going to have to really focus on how to make it feel a little bit better, navigating and stuff. And right now for the y-axis, up is down. Well, yeah, up is down and down is up. So we have an inverted mouse on that, but my left and right are good. So we'll continue this next time. I think we made some decent progress today. I actually think I had it right the first time, perhaps. No. Wait. So if I do, yeah, no, I'm still inverted. So I'm inverted Y. I just got to figure out why that is. But anyway, I'm going to leave it here. I'll hit you guys up tomorrow, probably around the same time, and we'll do a session then and hopefully fix some of these problems. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the follow, by the way. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Take care.